All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight, episode 313, and we are coming to you on Thursday night. Last night, unfortunately, I had a little bit of an internet outage, which was nice. They told us about it just the day off. They had to replace some lines. But anyway, hopefully that takes care of some of the latency issues that I was having, and that's all taken care of. But tonight, we are going to chat a little bit about the changing of the seasons. So it is that time here in Canada and a lot of other places where you're going to be switching out your cold weather gear for your warm weather gear, and the weather is changing, and there's some things that come with that. So, not every year, but most years around this time, we try to give a little gentle nod to that, and talk about some of the things to get your juices flowing in your brain about what you want to swap out, how to deal with some stuff that's going to change a little bit, and just kind of get you into the mindset of getting out there and starting to have a little bit more fun in the warmer weather, because there's those people that, they don't do as much in the off season. Guilty as charged this year for whatever reason. But now that the warm weather's ramping up, I'm already starting to plan stuff. Like, I've been eyeballing a river for like 3 weeks now going, I'd probably survive if I fell in at this point.
You're gonna freeze.
It's not that far to shore. I might be able to do it with a PDF. I mean, I don't think it'd take me more than 10 minutes to swim from the center to the side. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm figuring I got, is about 10 minutes of useful movement before I can't do much more.
Thank God we have extra insulation, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'm buoyant anyway.
Yeah, so I agreed though. Like, I got a plan for the next couple of weeks. I'm supposed to head out. It does seem like there's so much on the go. It's so busy, but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out and enjoying it. I have equipment I still want to test. I don't know if I'll have room to take it this trip, but I definitely need to get it out. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, but summer, that's our goal here today. Let's stay on topic. So it's time to go through your gear, take it out, and think, what am I carrying just because it's winter? And what can I do to lighten my load, to more dial it in for what I'm going to need? And I think there's a lot of stuff, but the first thing we'll talk about is some of the bulkier things. Like your extra clothing maybe doesn't need to be as heavy and as insulated. Your sleeping bag, you can potentially go to a slightly lower rating sleeping bag, or at least not take extra liners, which is what I do. I'll still probably take my winter sleeping bag, but now I can drop some of the extra stuff that I use to boost it for the winter.
I can downsize from the minus 30 degree or minus 30 degrees Celsius sleeping bag and drop back down to like my minus 18 and still be okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's the sort of thing you're looking at, right? And that really helps. Even with your boots, like, you can go with an online boot now if you want. But that's the obvious stuff, I think. I try to carry sunscreen year round. Some people say, oh, you put sunscreen in. But the reality is you can really burn your face and your hands in the winter. Fortunately, you cover a lot more of the skin, so it's less of an issue. But it still needs to be done, but you need to be much more aware of it. Maybe a bigger thing of sunscreen, maybe one of a higher rating. I don't see the point in going with a low SPF right now. I think just get a decent one and go with it.
There's a train of thought on this. Somebody told me, and by somebody I mean a dermatologist, was basically anything above FPS 50 is negligible. Like that, it kind of hit, like, you get all kinds of gains to about minus 50, and then for like minus 50 to minus 100, it's such a minuscule amount that it's not even really worth buying. Now, I'm not a dermatologist and we're not doctors, but that was told to me by a dermatologist because I sunburn super easy, and I literally asked, would I be better off using FPS 100? Because I only ever used like 30. You know what I mean? And they're like, there's no point. There's just, you're wasting money for a specialty sunscreen that's basically doing maybe 2% more work than your FPS 50. So take it for what it's worth. I don't know. Just food for thought. It was told to me. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah. There's SPF clothing you can get, and that's a good start too. Like, if you can cover the skin, especially early in the year, for me, I'm much more prone to burning the first bit of the year when I get the first few suns. So try to limit your exposure. Try to work your resistance up type deal. And at least that'll keep you from burning. You'll still end up tanning. And some people say you shouldn't tan, like that's still bad for you. But just be aware that you definitely don't want to be sunburned in the woods. It makes for a miserable trip, and blistering risks infections and things like that. You have to take care of yourself. So that's for sure. The next thing is right about now, you start to have to think about flies.
Yeah. The bugs are just starting to come out here now. And we were lucky enough. I don't know about you over on that side, Ben, but we had a pretty cold winter. I got my fingers crossed that maybe the ticks might be a little lighter this year. I don't think they'll be gone, but I'm hoping they haven't gotten worse at the very minimum. So yeah, it's there's definitely going to be a lot more bugs out. So definitely start getting to that bug dope or whatever you want to bring there, or just when you are burning your fire and stuff like that. If you have a campfire going, you can use things like usnea, some green boughs, create a little bit more of a smoke, and it will drive them away. But it's definitely something that you're going to notice a little bit more this time of year. Also, I don't know about the rest of the area, but we've been having a really windy start of the year. Like it's been nonstop gusts. Like you can probably see it on my face here. This isn't sunburn. This is windburn.
Oh yeah?
Just it's nonstop. It's a relentless windy spring.
Yeah. I mean, what can you do for the wind though?
Not much, except, well, I grew a beard, so it's only my cheeks that actually catch windburn. You know what I mean? The rest of me's covered. I'm still dealing with it. But it's still something to be noted about. A little bit of skin moisturizer can help you while you're in there because it does dehydrate you a little bit. And yeah, maybe just, even though it's going to be warm and you got those nice breezes, much like you said about the sun and tempering your body to it, just be aware the wind can also play a little part in that. And it's also that really weird time of year where the wind is going to have enough of a drying effect. Dehydration actually happens a fair amount this time of year because you get that warm breeze. People start peeling off the clothes. They're not used to this anymore. That air, especially where it's drier, you hit that crossover early or later in the evenings or early in the afternoons. Earlier in the afternoons. It can dry you out bad, and it can cause dry skin, chapped lips, and dehydration.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess that comes back to thinking about a few things. One, carrying enough water. This is a time of year where you don't necessarily have to melt snow to get water. You don't have to cut through ice. So water is accessible. Make sure you do have a purification system or process or a filtration system. And we have ones that we like. Do your research. Find something that works for your area. Find us something that works for the type of trip you're doing. If you have to boil water and wait for it to cool down, that takes a while. So the filtration system definitely has an edge on that. Even the ones with the tablets, most of those require to go in for a few hours before they're usable. So be aware of the process you're getting and make sure you can deal with that time for dehydration. The other thing is it is kind of oftentimes like cold in the mornings and cold in the evenings. So you tend to bulk up on clothing, and in the middle of the day, you can be extremely hot and you'll sweat a lot more, and you have to figure out what you're going to do with that clothing. So that helps add to that dehydration. So, dry, windy air can cut out your moisture, but also just the type of clothing you choose can help dehydrate you a little quicker. So yeah, stay hydrated. The other thing is, hydration isn't just the water, it's the salts and stuff that you need to maintain. So, a good electrolyte additive is never a bad idea. A lot of sports goods drops and stuff can really give you that.
This is one I've taken a liking to, and we're not sponsored by these folks. We're not sponsored by anything. But this is one I like, BioSteel. They make these boxes of these little pouches. It's sugar-free. And you can pick them up on Amazon for I think I got it $9. Came with 50 of these little satchels. I find them strong. Like this is supposed to go in one bottle, this whole package. I use about a third of that. So I actually get 3 bottles out of one of these. That's why I have an open one sitting on my desk. Because I just don't like it does use some sort of sweetener, and I'd have to read it. I imagine it's probably aspartame or something incredibly healthy for me. But I just find it a little too sweet for me. So I cut it down to about 1/3. And I space it out more, you know what I mean? Because they say pump one of those into a bottle of water, down it, and that's your electrolyte replacement. So instead, I just spread it out over 3 and take a little bit more fluids in.
Yeah. Um, we did mention boiling water, though. This is a time when you can kind of switch up your stove. We talked in the winter about having a stove that can handle the cold, and we both talk a bit about like the multi-fuel liquid fuel stoves that kind of preheat the fuel and need pressure. But now, if you want, you can go to a canister style stove. It saves a bit of bulk and a bit of weight. Um, you don't have to, but it is a place where you can kind of lighten your load on your stove side if you want. Or if you really don't even want to do that, you can just go to a wood stove or just the little tablet burns. But the reality is, in the winter, I tend to want to have a little bit more heat with mine. So I do carry a bigger, bulkier stove, and I do enjoy it for what it is. But this is a time where if you want to cut down on weight, you can go to a smaller, more efficient stove that is going to work in the temperatures you're going to hit. Because as long as you're staying well above zero or around zero, those butane, isobutane type stoves work quite well. No real issues there. But minus 20, they start to get like
I
very
switched
iffy.
to propane.
Yeah. And even that propane has a lower limit. Like
Yep.
but my multi-fuel stove, I mean, it'll burn gasoline, naphtha, and all that. That burns as low as I want to go. Like I've never had lower end temperature problems with that particular one. So I like it, but it isn't the perfect stove for various reasons. And one of it is it is bulky. It does require those type of fuels that are, could leak and get into your stuff and all that. Where the gas ones, if it did leak, it's kind of dissipates on its own. Just don't light a match.
Yeah. Just looking at the comments here, and I guess it's easier to say it than type it again. Yeah, we were off last week there, Eric. Or not last week, last night. Just internet problems. We rescheduled for tonight, like we said in the comments there. We did post it up on the Facebook page. It was just kind of one of those last minute things. I didn't find out until I was at work. I contacted Ben. I didn't know if the internet was going to be back up because all they said was the internet's going to be down temporarily while they change lines. And I was like, okay, we'll just play it by ear and see if I get internet back. Long story short, didn't get it back till this morning. So we just moved it till tonight. Apologize for any inconvenience, but awesome to hear that we make your week. Makes us feel pretty good. We always like when people appreciate what we do here. Yeah, so definitely. The other thing to think about on that, kind of very similar, Ben, is this time of year, you're going to have to start checking if you can have campfires. And that's something that people don't think about. Because, it's spring, it's all times wet and stuff like that. But your fine fuels, they're actually drying out pretty quick during the day. Because once again, here at least, it's been windy as heck and brightly sunny. So during the day, all that fine grasses and little needles and stuff like that, it dries out really fast. And they actually do put burn bans on until about 7 p.m. around here. So just make sure you check your local bylaws or your provincial laws or whatever before you fire up that campfire, because we don't want to see anybody have a visitor at their campsite, perhaps not in the best of moods. Because if they come twirling their, party lights, they're generally not bringing party supplies. They generally bring party downers. And everybody knows what I mean there. So yeah, just check it out and make sure it's safe to burn if you're going to do that. Though this is my favorite time of year to actually have a campfire. Because as we said, in the nights it's cooler, but it's not cold like the winter. I can really appreciate a fire in the winter and you snuggle up next to it and you get nice and warm. But you got just a tiny bit more freedom now where you don't have to be so hunkered into it and basically trying to survive beside it. You can kind of lean back a little bit, enjoy that radiant warmth, and watch the dance of the flames and shadows across the canopy and stuff like that. And it's really quite magical. But that's just me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. So, we got clothing, sleeping systems. We mentioned stove, shelters, even our sleeping pads.
Yeah. This time of year, I start switching over to my little lighter sleeping pad. Well, more specifically, I throw it in the hammock most times, unless I'm camping with the girls. But I switched to a little thinner mat, and I know you probably do as well. Do you, Ben?
Well, I mean, hammock's still my favorite. I have been using an air mattress as my under insulation. and I'll continue doing that. But yeah, I mean, I do have the hot tent. I probably won't take that as often, or if I do, I don't need to take the stove with it. I can set it up differently. I'll like one of the things I switch in that is I take the screen, right?
Yeah.
Where I don't in the winter. So that's a switch it. The stove kind of goes away, the screen gets added. Um, or I could go to a lighter uh, hammock because I have a few, and so some of them are a little better in the winter than the summer. So I can consider that one with maybe a little bit more screen room, one that maybe is a little bit. It doesn't have the double layer bottom, so I can help
Mm.
separate some of my gear or add insulation if I need to. So those are some things that I can do with my shelters. Um, Also, it's a time of year where I can consider a tarp shelter if I want, or move to a different tarp. Like one of my big tarps can completely enclose the thing right to the ground. I don't need that, so I can go with a diamond tarp, which again saves space and bulk, and sometimes gives me a better view in the morning. Like I can look out from it, where I'm just not like locked into the confining as that would be tent like. You know what I mean?
I guess while we're talking about shelters, this is the time of year where you can get away with having a lower pitch on your shelter too, because most times you're not trying to bleed snow off anymore, where you got to have, a little bit more of a steeper pitch, which is more space to keep warm. You know what I mean? So if you lower that down, a lot of times now that you're putting away your little stove and your hot tent, a little smaller shelter, you can kind of break the chill around yourself with your own body heat. It's not dropping as violently as cold anymore at night. I mean, here it's some nights it hits 0 or 32 for those that run in Fahrenheit. So right around freezing, but never really below it. So most nights now are staying at least a little bit above freezing. Which, believe it or not, that's pretty easy to sleep in with any kind of half decent sleeping bag. Like even the big box marts like Walmart, Canadian Tire, their cheaper ones are generally good to like 5 degrees. And if you throw that with a couple liners and stuff, you can actually get them down to being quite comfortable.
Yeah. Also, like you said, changing your pitch, you're not worried about snow load, where in the winter you are. So
Exactly.
those are things to consider. So just minor things with that. I probably like in the winter, I take multiple pairs of gloves or mitts. I'll still take a pair of gloves, but maybe it can be a good set of work gloves that doubles as insulation, and then maybe just the one hat or um, I carry the buffs. That
Yep.
helps too. You can use a buff for a lot of that stuff, and you can still cover your face and your neck with it. So you can lighten that gear. What else am I changing in my gear?
Actually, funny enough, on the note of the buff, if I'm running around in the woods, that's actually what I use to break the wind. I pull it up
Yeah.
to about here, and I always wear my hat. You can see the top of my head doesn't look windburnt. Shiny maybe, but not windburnt. It's just my top of my cheek. So yeah, I just pull it up to there, and literally you can see right across my nose. Where my glasses stop is where the windburn starts.
Um, Fishing gear.
Fishing season here is opened as of April 15th, and a lot of other places may be different dates, but definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you can ice fish, but honestly, even that's a little bit different. But now is the time when the waters are open, the fish are flowing. You can potentially do that. So some of the gear you're taking, just like um, that sort of stuff, is usable. Also, if you're into forging, this is the time to do some spring forging. So there is a fair bit you can forge in the spring. There's stuff you can forge year round if you know what you're into. But obviously, spring and fall have some special options, and in summer there's some stuff that's really available throughout the whole growing season. That's where you'll find a lot of that. And in the winter, it's a bit more picky, but there's definitely great stuff you can look for. But spring foraging is definitely something. So if you want to take a pouch or a bag to help gather some stuff, and maybe a book that centers on that stuff, that's a great thing to have. And a great hobby of this type of year. The days are much longer, so a good campfire this time of year is absolutely gorgeous. So, um, you can take that. It's still nice to have a place to sit. So I usually take a chair year round, but now you can probably get away with one that you won't have to worry about your bum getting as cold when you're
You're
sitting
not
on the
sitting
thing.
in a snowbank this time of year at
Yeah,
least, but the ground could still be cold, could still be wet. Red Bear Tactical here is mentioning gold panning. It is a good
Oh,
time of year where you can start picking up a lot more of those hobbies where you are in and around the water because it's not frozen.
yeah. And if you're getting into gold panning, you may want to consider getting the Pro Point device or even a metal
Mm.
detector that can help with it. But the Pro Point, if you're scooping through, you can actually poke that in sometimes and find bigger nuggets and stuff. And a big metal detector. I've had one in the past. I'd love to get one again. Can really help narrow things down. But if you're going around and finding stuff like that really can help add to the thing. And that's small enough that fits in your pocket. It's not that big. Um,
Yeah, so basically we've talked about our gear, our shelter, basically our clothing. We talked about pitch angles for our, I guess that's still shelter. Water's being open now. It's just a good time of year, but you do kind of switch gears. If you start bringing all your winter gear because, it could get cold, you may end up being a little unhappy or uncomfortable because you're a little too warm. But if you flip right into your summer gear, you may end up on the flip side of this and be a little uncomfortable because you got a little too cold. It is one of It's an awesome time of year, but it's also a time of year to use your head a little bit more too. Like Ben said earlier, the nights and mornings are still relatively cool, and your
yeah,
days are relatively warm. So it's hard to really plan what you're wearing for what temperature it is because you still got to obey layers. You know what I mean? You may want to wear a sweater in the morning, but something that's easily peeled off if you're going to be traveling through the day because you don't want to wear that sweater all day. You're going to cook to death. You know what I mean? We had a day here. It was like -1 degree in the morning and 22 degrees in the afternoon. That's 23-degree swing in an 8-hour period. That's a big change in temperature. A lot of us couldn't handle it over here in the East Coast. We were starting to peel, windows down in cars and extra coats were coming off, and people started wishing they were wearing shorts because we haven't climatized to it yet. And then when the evening rolled around, it only went down to like 8, but my goodness, it felt cold because we had that snap of hot. It's kind of is hard to regulate the temperature. So the best way you can do that, as always, is layer up, but even more so now because it is going to vary so much.
yeah, for sure. Um, I had a train of thought.
I seen it and then I seen it disappear too. It was actually kind of impressive to watch on the camera because it was there. You seen the light in your eyes, and then you just seen that. Oh, what was it? It was actually pretty impressive. If anybody is listening, audio only, this is definitely an episode worth coming back right around where are we at here. I mean, we're going to tell the people about the 22-minute mark. It was worth it, folks. That's all I can say.
Wow. Wow.
It's not bad. It's just very clear. Like, you could see the smile, like, and then it was just gone. It was great.
Remind me what we were saying? My mind went completely
Oh,
blank.
God, now I've lost it because I was making fun of you. Weather swings. Massive swings in weather. You can go from one extreme to the other.
Oh,
It's hard to clothing.
yeah. So cold. The rivers, the lakes, they're going to be really cold, and it is spring. Like it does tend to be wet. You definitely want cold or quick dry gear. So if your pants, your shirt, something that dries really quickly, and or a little waterproof pouch that carries some replacement gear. And the beauty is a lot of this stuff is awful lightweight and can pack pretty small. So it really doesn't hurt to have that extra gear. But if you do fall in, especially as the evenings are approaching, I think that's the riskiest point. You can get pretty wet and it is pretty miserable. I know that, you know, Mr. Roberto there has experienced it because I've seen him where he fell in a bit in the evening, and getting dry and comfortable took a bit of effort. So it's one of those things to prepare for, because it is that time. Later in the summer, if you get wet, it's kind of more manageable, and even in the fall, it doesn't seem to hurt as much. But right now, because the water is so cold, it really does hit you hard. And like you said earlier, if you do fall in, you got like 10 minutes to sort of recover. So keep that in mind. Yeah, I think those are some of the big things that we wanted to bring up.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Like I said, it was just our yearly reminder. Hey, it's switching gears. Things are changing. Think a little bit more for it, simply because they are so vastly different from the morning to the afternoon to the evening. It's a beautiful
I,
time of
I,
year. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I for one, will be pulling all my gear out probably this weekend and next weekend, and start adjusting it for the May 2-4 weekend. So when I do go, I have the gear I want for the trip I'm doing. and I'll be thinking about a lot of this stuff and making sure I'm set up. There's a lot of things you always have to consider for every trip. Really consider the type of trip. What is your mode of transportation? Where are you going? Even for here, elevation plays a huge part. Um, but there's a lot of other things to keep in mind. What is the activities? What is the locale? What is the forest like? What is the water features, if any? Like, I mean, all these things play a factor in these things.
And Red Bear had a
Um,
good point here too. Just have to plan for what his exact quote. Up here, you have to be aware of the roads becoming impassable if the weather changes overnight. You still get that possibility of a quick snowstorm or a heavy rainstorm because the ground is still thawing and it's very fragile. So you could get washouts very easily.
Red Bear knows all about tents and stuff collapsing in the middle of the night this time of year. Well, at least mine collapsed. I fixed it, but he was there.
But I mean, yeah, that's kind of all we really wanted to say here tonight, or at least all I wanted to say. Like I said, get you thinking about it. We do hope that you folks do get out there and enjoy yourselves. And if you've been waiting for the warmer weather to come, well, it's kind of here. You got to be a little smart, but you can still get out and have a great day. Even if you're not for sleeping in the woods this time of year, day trips are becoming incredibly nice. Like Ben said, evening now. I mean, it's about 9:30 here, and I mean, it's just dark. I can't quite see the neighbor's house anymore, but it's just barely. But 9 o'clock, I still would have been able to see.
Yeah, and it's quite bright here. It's beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's also only 5:30 there, man.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was much later. But yeah, get out there. Like we said, get out there, have fun. Take a thought about the time of year. It's always a good idea to think about what are the biggest risks of this type of year. And I think by just taking the time to think about it, you'll generally enjoy the trip a lot better because you'll be a bit better prepared. Anytime you do any activity, think about the risks that are involved and how you can mitigate them, right?
Is that you or me with the sirens?
Me.
Must be you. Okay, I was going to say, I don't think the fire department's responding. I didn't hear the radio go off. I guess my last bit of information, I did have it here. It was one of the things I wanted to mention, is this time of year, a lot of migratory birds are bedding down in and around water sources and stuff like that. They're laying eggs. So just be aware of that, folks. I mean, yeah, let's get out there. Let's have some fun. Let's also be respectful of nature. They just want to do their thing and breed too. You know what I mean? They want to procreate, have their families, have a good year. So just keep an eye out for it. There's nothing worse than walking along and trampling down a bunch of duck eggs or something like that. You know what I mean? Most of us are going to feel bad about that. So just a little bit more of a mindful eye. That's the conservationist
100%.
in me.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So there's our time. And next week, I think we have a plan. Do we want to repeat that or?
Yeah, might as well. I'm good with that.
So next week we're going to talk about our survival kits or what we would purchase if we were to build one. Let's see if we can stick to some kind of budget.
It started at 100. We're both over that by a little bit, so it won't be ridiculously expensive, but it's probably not going to be $100 like originally planned. But it's still going to be better than said $30 kit that we reviewed last week.
It also might not fit in that little kit.
No, mine's not. The container I have is much bigger than that, but I also have better stuff. You know what I mean? I feel like you're getting more bang for your buck with the stuff that we've hammered out. Maybe we're wrong. So we're going to invite you folks back to come next week and tell us what you think of what we put together, because this is just our opinions. Maybe we're off the mark. Maybe this is just kits for us. I don't know. But let's find out next week.
Yeah. And there's always better. There's always cheaper. But this is the things we think that would be worth spending the money on. Right?
And we did try to split that bang for buck.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I don't. Sorry, go ahead, Ben. I keep cutting you off. But
I think we both chose some more economical versions of things we might prefer, but still a very good quality. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, we spent money, but it was money well spent. We didn't get anything extravagant. You know what I mean? We're not buying the top of the line Leatherman for a multi-tool. We're not getting, the top of the line cold steel knife that's $600. Like, we didn't go down that road. We bought things that, like, this is a reasonable amount to pay to get a decent quality tool or item.
Yeah.
Or at least I think we did. Like I said, maybe we didn't. Join us next week. We'll find out.
See y'all.
Night, folks. See yous.